So in this video, I want to show you Marjorie Taylor Greene's response to a constituent who contacted her to ask her, vote for Ukraine. And I'll show you that in just a moment. She's the person who has gotten the worst drubbing from the Ukraine aid because she's been the most vocal opponent of it. And so her stock has fallen the most, I think. Now with Ultra MAGA, she may even be doing better. I don't know, but with as far as just like who's the big winner or who's the loser, she's probably the biggest loser in this. She said just after this, Mike Johnson has shown Congress or hasn't shown Congress or the American people the proof that Russia intends to invade the rest of Europe after finishing its campaign in Ukraine. Reality doesn't matter to Mike Johnson, and she goes on and on. Reality might not matter a lot to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going to show you this. This is a emailed version of the letter that was sent to one of my viewers, one of her constituents. I removed this person's name, but otherwise I didn't touch the letter at all. This is what her office sent when this gentleman asked, please support Ukraine aid. Thank you for contacting me about the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So good so far. I am concerned about America's involvement in yet another foreign war with no clear objective or benefit to the American people. Let's stop there. This is chock full of straw men and red herrings. Okay, yet another foreign war. Okay, it's a foreign war, but yes, another one. Okay, but it's not like we're trying to, let's go find a foreign war to fight with no clear objective. That's not necessarily so, although the Biden administration could be a little clearer about it. Okay, or benefit to the American people. There is a benefit to the American people if it precludes a World War III, if it stops Putin where he is before he can grow into something worse. For far too long, Democrats, rhinos, that's Republicans in name only, and the DC defense establishment. Okay, the establishment talk, that's something that MAGA does a lot. Like on the left, if they're going to have a boogeyman, it's like, think about a Hallmark movie. The bad guy is the guy that's working in big business and she is dating him, but then realizes that the woodworker or the guy that works at the puppy shelter is right under her nose the whole time, but the business guy was always the bad guy. That's like the left's trope of a boogeyman. On the right, it's the government establishment or the deep state or something along those lines. Okay, the DC defense establishment have reaped huge profits from endless wars while sacrificing the lives of brave American men and women. No American men and women are involved in this. Like their lives are not being, no servicemen are being sent for this. So it's kind of a straw man to be making this kind of argument. Okay, given his son's business dealings with Ukraine, Joe Biden is clearly compromised. We don't know that this is true at all. Like, he had business dealings with Ukraine, but this is something that is being pushed as a Russian narrative that, but she's buying it and repeating it, and she's a congressman. It's amazing to watch. His bribes and influence peddling allowed his son, Hunter, to sway Ukraine's domestic policy while reaping personal financial rewards. Again, none of this is proven or established. Joe Biden is a threat to our national security and should not be trusted to steer U.S. foreign policy regarding Ukraine. Look, I don't like Biden for multiple reasons, but none of what she said in this paragraph is actually established. Okay. Unfortunately, Democrats and weak Republicans ignored my concerns about Biden and continued to mindlessly support his endless funding of Ukraine. Even the way that it's phrased is just shocking that this is coming from a congressman. Ignored her concerns about Biden, mindlessly supporting. It's not mindlessly. There's a real good reason to be supporting Ukraine. To date, Congress has sent more than $110 billion taxpayer dollars overseas with very few questions about how Americans' money is being spent. I don't think there's very few questions about how the money's being spent. They're working this out very carefully to try to provide Ukraine the aid that it needs to repel Russian aggression. It's not very few questions. I find it ironic that the Biden administration is sending billions of dollars to protect another nation's border. Here's the red herring. Another nation's border while ignoring the human security crisis created by the unprecedented invasion of over 5 million border crossers at our own southern border. Let's stop there. Should we fix the southern border? Yes. Is that the reason not to deal with what's going on in Ukraine? By no means. You could do both simultaneously if you desire to. But that we're not doing this does not mean we shouldn't do that. If Congress insists on using Americans' money to put Ukraine first, remember this is like a America first as opposed to Ukraine first kind of juxtaposition, then taxpayers have the right to know exactly how their money is being spent. It's true, taxpayers do have the right to know how their money is being spent, but it's not that they're putting Ukraine first. They're dealing with a real threat. I keep giving this analogy, but some people may not have heard it. A few months back, my water heater died. I'd had to replace it. I don't like having to replace it, but I like having hot water. Since I like having hot water, I had to deal with this. It costs money. Same kind of thing here. I don't like having to spend money for Ukraine. However, it's a whole lot better to spend this money on Ukraine than let the Russians overturn international order and do what they're doing, and then send a signal to Xi that this is a good idea to do with Taiwan and other dictators around the world, that we're not going to do anything and that it's okay to subvert international order, because a lot of worse consequences will come from that. Okay, last Congress, I introduced House Resolution 1482, a resolution of inquiry demanding an audit of every dollar our government has sent to Ukraine. When put to a vote in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, every Democrat voted against my resolution. With their votes, Democrats told the American people that you do not have the right to know how Congress is spending your money. Okay, let's park on that. Now, why did she do that? Because she's trying to stall the process, because she wants to stop the process, because she's trying to prevent the process from moving forward. She's doing what she can to work against it, because in her mental framework, giving aid to Ukraine is a bad thing. We shouldn't be doing it. Why did the Democrats vote against it? Because they realize she's stalling. She's trying to stop it. She's trying to prevent it. So it's not that they're necessarily opposed to accountability. Like, do you think really all Democrats in Congress are on the take for Ukraine? Is that really what's going on? Of course not. Okay. This Congress, House Republicans, will be investigating the money sent to Ukraine to know where your hard-earned tax dollars have been spent. Fine, there's no problem with that. Pass the $61 billion in aid, and then track it. That's fine. There's no problem with that. Everybody can agree on that. Unlike Democrats, I believe that you should know what the government is doing with your money. They're not trying to hide what the government is doing with your money. That's the thing. It's a false statement here. Okay. Thank you again for sharing your thoughts with me on this important issue. I'm increasingly concerned with America's involvement in this conflict. I will continue to put America first. Now, America first doesn't mean America only, and that's where the confusion is. To serve the interests of the American people over those of foreign governments. But what happens, Marjorie, if this blows up and then our own sons and daughters have to go and actually fight overseas because this has gotten out of hand? Then we have a whole different problem set, and you would have been the one that's caused it. If you have further questions, please contact my DC office. And if anybody wants to contact our DC office, it's 202-225-5211. That's from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, so what we saw here were a number of, I don't want to say lies, but there's probably lies, half-truths, red herrings, just the kinds of phrases things that aren't provable or proven, at least, like Joe Biden is on the take. We don't know that Joe Biden's on the take. If it is proven, that's despicable, but we don't know that, and she's asserting it as if it's true. So that's where Marjorie Taylor Greene's coming from, and we're just going to see more and more of that as time goes on, unless she's out of office. But she's not going to be out of office. She's going to stay in her seat because she has such a high Republican percentage district that it's not likely that anybody's going to be able to remove her, at least no Democrat. You might be able to have a Republican unseat her in a primary in the next election, but that's at least 2 years off. All right. Thank you for your time. Tell me what you thought in the comments below. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.